20 years now, the first question I ask is, did you take notes? And then they give me this like, well, no. And it's like, but why?
Not?
Yeah, why did you not? This is not hard. I mean, I still write my notes down. I don't even put them in the computer yet, even though I live my life on the computer. I have a little book, and I write it all down in the little book, you know?
I do the same thing. I know when I first started getting on Got Mead, and I was that guy just learning and plowing through, reading a bunch of stuff. And
you ask good questions.
Every time I'd read, and I used to be amazed. I'd say, well, blah, 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 this is my stuff. And they'd say, okay, well, maybe. And I'd go, how do you know? I couldn't believe that somebody could tell that what my mistakes were by reading what I had written down or what I did. And, once you get on the other side of that, it's pretty easy to look at somebody's procedure or sequence events or something and know what they could have done to make it better.
It's no different than baking bread, okay? So if you don't follow the bread recipes and it comes out like flatbread, if they took notes on what they did, you can go, oh, well, here where you should have used this, you didn't, or when you were rising, when you were letting the bread rise, you didn't punch it down twice. What the hell, So it's a recipe, and it's just like any other recipe. If you don't keep track of what you did, or if you don't follow the recipe and the notes with the recipe, and that's the thing. It's like, here's a list of shit I put in my mead, but that doesn't mean jack until you say, here's a list of shit I put in my mead, and here's what I did with that. This is how I put it together, and the directions.
Yeah, you need both the ingredients and the procedures.
Correct, and that's where most people fall down. They're all looking for the perfect recipe when, like you've been saying, Ryan, if you don't learn the process, if you don't learn how to make a good mead, it doesn't matter what kind of recipe you get, you're never going to make a good mead. And the other thing,
you can. You can, but you might not be able to replicate it.
Well, exactly. You might not be able. You can. I've made several accidental really good meads, but
exactly.
Yeah, but the point is that you can't make a consistently good mead. And just for a quick little side trip or rabbit hole, is the whole how do you know it's good? Have you let anybody other than your brother and sister-in-law and your mom try it, and or your friends? Because they're all going to tell you it's awesome because you'll give them more and then they can get drunk. So you need to have. I mean, I'm a firm believer in. I don't enter competitions myself just because I'm a lazy ass, but I give my mead to other people and I want to hear what they think. So I let people who I trust and who I respect and that I know what a good mead tastes like taste it. So even though I'm not entering comps, I'm letting competent people say, well, Vic, this is really good, except, there's this really weird sort of fusel note underneath it. What did you do? So it's, you gotta have that outside opinion to tell you if it's good. I can't tell you the number of people that have come up to me and said, taste my mead. Everybody tells me it's amazing, and before I taste it, I always say, do you want honesty or do you want me to say the nice friend thing? They may be the same thing, but I'm going to ask you first so that you don't hit me if it's not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And end of rabbit hole. But yeah, you need directions. You need to take notes on what you did, including the ambient temperature of the mead itself, and then you also need to let non-interested bystanders, if you will, who have some experience, taste your mead. Send it to somebody, and say, tell me what you think. I got 3 bottles like that earlier in the summer, and I told them, here's what was going on with these meads. And unfortunately, something went sideways with them, and I didn't have all the background, so I couldn't tell them exactly what, but they weren't good. And but now he knows, and he'll be able to go and amend his process.
Well, and I've offered everybody on Got Mead, I've told them, if you want to send me some samples of your stuff, I'll send you back a score sheet as if you had entered it into a competition, just so that they could have at least some.
You can afford to post it to Australia.
Anyone wants to send me mead to Australia, I'm in on it.
Yeah. Well, and to that effect, we could form a Got Mead tasting group of people we know who can evaluate mead in a proper and non-denominational manner, and and provide people with a list of, here are the people that you can send your mead to for evaluation if you want to get a non-interested input as to what's working, what's not working, and here's what you need to do. We need your recipe, we need your process.
And that's the most important part, is tell them what. Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, we could set that up as a service. Send me your mead. I'll tell you what I think.
Well, a lot of people go, oh, well, yeah, then everybody, you're going to be drinking all this great mead. Well, honestly...
They're going to be sending you the crappy ones to figure out what they did wrong.
And that's fine, too. I mean, that's right. That's how you find out. And it's like, no, I mean, I don't swill people's mead. I will taste their mead, and often the rest of it, if it's good, will get shared out with somebody else. I'll drink enough of it to be able to give an evaluation, and that's it. I drink too much mead. Oh my God, I drink too much mead. Yeah.
That's what I love at the competitions, when somebody has a nice mead. Once you're done scoring that fight, and you take some over to your buddy. Hey, you should check this out. This is really nice. And then we hand it off, and the other table gets to try it. And so
that's so much fun.
Some of the. But yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, I mean, we could totally put something like that together on Got Mead.
Yeah. So I want to make one last comment here, and then we can move on to the next section, unless we have other questions that have come in. Most everybody, when they start out, they want to make mellow mills, I believe. It seems, from the time that I've been on the forum and been involved in the mead world, that's generally the case. And I think that's good if you want to start making some mellow mills. But here's what I would suggest with my whole heart if you want to really become a good mazer. And I looked that word up later after somebody wrote that on Facebook, Vicki. Isn't a mazer a glass to drink out of? And
it is.
So maybe I won't.
And I mean, people can call themselves whatever they want. You can call yourself a spotted cat if it makes you happy, but
right.
A mazer is a drinking vessel. That's like calling a beer brewer a stein, and it's silly. And if you say mazer in front of Ken Schramm, he will ridicule you in public. Just saying.
Is that right?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he totally will. He hates that, and I'm sorry, but I agree with him. A mazer is a drinking vessel. Period. End of story. We are mead makers.
All right. Yeah. So I think we all want to take, don't we all, in a general sense, about anything, it's pretty easy as a human being. We take the easiest road with the least resistance, don't we? I mean, we're kind of lazy, and we don't like to suffer. We don't like to work extremely hard, harder than we need to get by. So I find that a lot of people, they don't want to spend the time, and they don't want to pay the dues to do all the testing that can be done to make you a better mead maker. Here's what I would suggest, and Peter taught us this. I've read everything that Peter's written on Got Mead 10 times. I've got it printed out at my house, and he doesn't know how much he influenced me for my guy that I jumped on his coattails. But the point is, learn to make a good traditional over and over several times. And if you'll spend the time to do that, and maybe you go, traditionals, they're kind of boring. I think after you learn to make them well, for me, they're my favorite. If and when I have my own meadery, I think I'm going to specialize for the most part in trads. But anyway, my point is, if you learn to make a good traditional, nothing can hide in a traditional. So there's nowhere for your faults to go. They're going to show up. They're going to be right in your face. If you will learn to make good traditionals, by doing that, you will raise the bar for every methylglend that you'll make from here on out, every mellow that you'll make from here on out, every braggot. I mean, you learn what the good science is by making the traditionals, because any and all of your faults have nowhere to hide. And so I know you might not want to think, I really don't want to make traditionals. I hear you. Give it a try. It's going to teach you more than making all of the other different styles, I promise.
That's right. And your whole point about people saying, I don't really want to make traditionals, is because they don't know how to make traditionals. And as long as you're masking the flavor of the honey and adding spices and adding fruit and doing all this stuff to it, you're never going to be able to focus on how to make good mead and how to get the most out of your honey until that's all you've got. And then you can look at it and you can go, oh, wow, well, this one with the same honey works so much better than that one there. And then you can start adding that in, and it makes your melomels so much better because you know how to deal with the honey and you know how to get the expression that you want from the honey.
Yep. You know, the faults that you find in your traditionals, they're going to be in all of your other meads.
Yeah, assuming
there's
you
no
make
way
the
it's
same
not.
Mistakes.
Right. Well,
hide behind the fruit.
Yeah, they're just.
And you won't know what your mistake. You won't know what your mistakes are.
Yeah, I think the first thing about me learning to make decent mead is to learn what mistakes you make.
Yeah,
and your traditionals will be your teacher. They will teach you what things you're making wrong, and then you have a chance to learn to correct them and see if your correction worked.
The other thing from what you were saying, in tasting your honey first before choosing your yeast, is that especially early on, I in fact today I still struggle to taste honey appropriately, to look past that sugar. So one thing I do like to do is to use a very clean yeast that I've used before and to actually make a gallon batch to then see how it's going to come out, to then decide what yeast I'm going to use for the 20-gallon batch.
See, there you go. You're one of the guys that it's willing to do the hard stuff to learn. You know, we have a group here that meets once a month, the Front Range Mazers, that we get together once a month. And there's more people in the group than what actually show up every month. And guess who the ones that show up every month are? They're the guys and gals that are already winning Mazer Cup and other competition awards. And the people that don't are the ones that stay home. And that used to make me mad. And it's like, well, what's up? The guys that need it the most, or at least possibly could need it the most, theoretically would need it the most, are the ones that don't come. And the people that already have it nailed, so to speak, are the ones that come, and then it dawned on me, well, that's about right, isn't it? They're the ones that come, and they already have it nailed because they're hungry and they still like to learn, and they're still doing their homework and playing the game.
And the few that come who haven't got it nailed, get it nailed really quickly because they come.
Absolutely, absolutely. How would you like to sit down in a room of 8 different people and everybody's won awards from mead competitions? That's a rare opportunity, and if somebody doesn't want to take advantage of that opportunity, then I just think, well, you're not really too interested in making mead, are you? Or, you know, and maybe they make wonderful mead. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, I almost feel like I'm at a disadvantage because as far as I can tell and as far as anybody's been willing to tell me, all my traditionals, relatively few considering the number of batches of other things I've made, have all turned out really well. So I'm not sure. Yeah, like I think I'm okay with the traditionals. It's everything else where things get wonky for me.
Well, at least you could put to bed the idea that you've got your science down, and or that would show up in your trads. It's not easy, is it? I mean, here's why I don't like to give people recipes. I do, but I don't really like to, and I would much rather say, you know what, learn to do the science. Because I could give a recipe to my 8-year-old grandson's big enough, smart enough. I could give him a recipe, and he could make a mead from a recipe, but he still hasn't learned a damn thing other than how to read a recipe and put it together, right?
But the thing is, if you've got a really good recipe and you've got your procedures down pat, you can still make a really good mead without having any idea what you're doing. It's just once you change something, that's when things go off the rails.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which
some of my best meads I didn't
do straight up all the time.
Yeah. I at least like to make something according to the recipe once, and then I go to fuck with it.
There you go. Do we have any questions from our audience?
I haven't seen any in the last bit.
Well, there's a bunch of conversation going on around making a good traditional, which there's no place to hide in a traditional, so it's one that's a little scary to a lot of people.
Especially a dry traditional. And it's also possible that the reason mine work out is because I don't really like dry, so I don't make dry. So it's quite possible